And this is it's weird, man. I don't know how to feel about this stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Like anytime any kind of news breaks during draft season, that's right. We got breaking news. I enjoy covering and I enjoy talking about it and getting one more piece to the puzzle in terms of our draft board. But it's also kind of a downer when it comes to Texas Longhorn Isaiah Bond here. If you guys may have already seen on Twitter, and we put an article together. What I did was had it combed through the intrawebs. There were several articles written, pull the facts for me, and we'll make sure we give credit to anyone who may have reported anything, specifically. But Texas Longhorns ex-receiver Isaiah Bond faces legal hurdle ahead of NFL draft. Packers top 30 visit in jeopardy. So he just posted the other day that he was in Green Bay. We know we had already reported on it through Easton Butler, giving us the scoop there that he was going to be scheduled as a top 30 visit. So he completed that top 30 visit. And I'm going to try to give all the details into this. Before we dive into it, is there anything you guys want to say about Isaiah Bond? Because I'm not just saying this because it now seems like he's got some legal troubles that he's got to overcome. And again, innocent until proven guilty, in my opinion. But he was a little bit lower on our board, and some people were saying he's like late first, early second. I just never seen him like that according to our board. But anything you guys want to add before we jump into the article here?
Innocent until proven guilty for sure. And that's no way a defense of any potential whatever, in this situation. I do know that based on what I read, he turned himself in with his attorney. Right. So usually that's a good sign, at least in the eyes of the law, that if you're willing to voluntarily surrender to a warrant and cooperate with the investigation. So it looks like he's cooperating right now. And, you got to let this kind of play out. I will say this. Still doesn't look good for him. And like you said, he's kind of, to me, one of those like borderline, just outside the top 100, kind of 125 range of players. So it does kind of suck because we just had a visit with him. We like our character high here in Green Bay with our players. So we don't like the off the field shenanigans at all. So if there's truth to this, it probably will hurt his chances of being drafted by the Packers. And sadly to say, even if there's no truth to it, it's still not a good look to, right, be arrested and, going into the draft. So we'll just see how it plays out. But, on paper, like I said, he's, a little bit lower on our board, I know, than most people have him. I think he's just outside the consensus top 100 right now.
All right. Let's dive into it. Jacob, you got anything you want to say before we jump into the details here, man?
No, I mean, Tim kind of basically covered it. Innocent until proven guilty. I don't think it looks the best. I'd argue that him kind of just surrendering himself maybe on the opposite side of the spectrum, just so he knows he maybe did something wrong and wants to get ahead of it and just be as cooperative as possible. I will say, too, he was kind of known for the guy that was spouting off saying he's going to break the 40 record, all this and that. He wasn't even the fastest guy in his own squad. So it seems like there could be maybe a little smoke or fire where there's that smoke, but I'm not definitely going to throw him underneath the bus. However, like Tim said, as far as him just realistically becoming a Packer, that stock drastically just plummeted.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it might not even be that a team feels 100% confident that, hey, there's nothing there or there is something there. There may not be enough time to let this unfold that you go, all right.
That's true.
Anyway, here are the details, guys. Former Texas Longhorns wide receiver Isaiah Bond has recently encountered legal trouble ahead of the 2025 NFL Draft, according to a report by Zach Dimmitt of Sports Illustrated. Bond turned himself into Frisco Police Department in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on the morning of Thursday, April 10th, 2025, due to an outstanding warrant for sexual assault. The report indicates that Bond was able to post bond and was subsequently released from custody. Bond, who played his first two college seasons with the Alabama Crimson Tide before transferring to Texas last offseason, has not revealed whether the alleged incident took place during his time in Tuscaloosa or during his single season in Austin. As a highly touted prospect, Bond is currently ranked at the 126th spot on our PTA big board and has been scheduled for a top 30 visit with the Green Bay Packers. However, this legal issue could potentially affect his draft stock as teams assess his character off the field conduct. All right. So during his tenure with the Longhorns, Bond demonstrated his abilities on the field despite struggling with a persistent ankle injury. In the SEC championship game against Georgia on December 7th, 2024. He recorded just one reception for 22 yards before the injury sidelined him for the first round of the college football playoff against Clemson. Although he returned for the Peach Bowl against Arizona State, Bond failed to make a catch in the Longhorns' final game. A defeat to Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, he contributed one reception for 8 yards. As reported by Zach Demmett, the Frisco Police Department confirmed Bond's arrest and release on bond to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport with the 2025 draft set to commence, blah, blah, blah. So they didn't give any details in that pool right there. So here is what his statement was, okay? And it sounds like it, if I remember correctly, I was reading online somewhere that it was sexual assault allegations. Is what I heard. Is that what you guys heard as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, we don't want to dig too deep and be like, hey, here's what it is without exactly knowing.
Exactly. That's a broad term, right?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, there's varying degrees of that, and who knows? We'll see when the reports come out.
I mean, nowadays, like when I whistle at Emilio, you know what I mean? That could be construed as essay.
What is wrong? Jake? What is wrong?
Hey, check your mailbox. You might have a letter in there. You never know.
Exactly. All right, so Ian Rappaport had put a tweet out earlier that said former Texas wide receiver and current NFL draft prospect Isaiah Bond turned himself into Frisco this morning for a matter related to an outstanding warrant for sexual assault. There it is, okay? And now since then, Isaiah Bond released a statement, and here's the statement, quote, regarding the accusation made against me, I would appreciate the time and opportunity to defend myself and prove the claims made patently false. I am in full cooperation with the authorities and will remain a willing and active participant in the investigation. Unfortunately, claims like this proved to be harmful to all involved, absent full review. I kindly request that all reserve judgment until the authorities provide a complete report based on truth and evidence.
100% of that typed up by his lawyer. There is no way he said that.
No doubt about it. And again, you know, the problem that I have with it, if I can just kind of speak to, you know, being completely honest and outspoken on how this looks to me, how did all of a sudden there was an outstanding warrant that you just found out about? You know what I mean? And
for something that serious. This isn't like a traffic ticket or something, you know.
And this is strictly, let me be very, very clear here. This is all alleged. We don't know if any of this is true. But I'm just going to be honest, as a Packer fan and a football fan, the first thing that popped in my mind was like, did this guy just ignore the warrant and go through this whole process, make sure you get the combine behind you, all this stuff? Okay, now let's deal with it. Now let's turn ourselves in, that type of thing. I mean, I'm not real familiar with warrants personally, but
I do know you can have one and not necessarily be aware of it sometimes.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah, it does happen. So he could have been accused, and
Jacob said you can have multiple and not be aware. No. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying he could have, you know, there could have been accusations, and then, you know, he wasn't aware that there was actually, you know, a warrant filed for his arrest. And obviously, once he did find out, it looks like he lawyered up and walked in and turned himself in, and he's cooperating. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Definitely. H.E. Solder says, I suspect that Bond is now off the Packers board. Again, with us not knowing if there's going to be enough time for them to uncover the truth, I tend to lean toward you there, Solder. You know, I mean, the Packers definitely aren't going to draft them without knowing whether or not, hey, are these allegations true or false, right? Like we've been talking about Mike Green this whole time because there's nothing legal has happened to Mike Green.
Yep.
But two different instances at two different places, you know, it just makes you go, I guarantee you, if you're Goody, you got to be looking at that going, us not knowing for sure. If you're 99%, you know, what's the saying here? I'm about to pull a George W. Bush. if you're not 100% sure, or if you're 99% sure, then you're 100% unsure, I think is how they say it. Like you can't pull the trigger, especially on the first round or second round, and not know for sure whether or not this is, because once you draft that player and that contract signed, you're on the hook for that guaranteed money, right? Unless you put something in that contract saying, hey, if something surfaces from this, and if that's the case there, the other 31 owners of the teams are not going to say, yeah, you know what, if that does turn out to be true, we'll just let you have your draft pick back next year. That's not how that works. So
sure isn't.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And again,
it is like when you compare it to Mike Green's situation, if there's nothing that's been filed legally, like he's not being formally charged with anything, And then you look at Isaiah Bond, there's actually a warrant and charges apparently here coming up. So we'll have to really see what happens. Either way, it's not a good look. You file that into the character concern bucket when you're looking at a prospect, and it's not a good look.
No, that's very well said, Tim. Very well said. Chuck Goodman in the chat says, a few years ago there was I think that means wide receiver, Wisconsin receiver, charged with sexual assault, rape, and won the trial in part because he had text messages from the girl suggesting otherwise. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's such a touchy subject, and I'm someone, just to be 100% transparent with you guys, I tend to almost always lean towards the female side in these situations, and it's just all of our opinions are based off our past experiences, right? Yep. I was raised by an awesome mom who had the roughest life on the face of the earth, and I was also, lived in a 2-bedroom house with 3 sisters. So I always tend to be very protective over the ladies. That's just how I am naturally. So on the flip side, that situation there that he just described, that Chuck described, absolutely horrible for that guy. Like, you've seen it with Matt Ariza, right? What they call the punt god. It damn near ruined his life and ended up being fake, ended up being false, right? So, but on the other side, if it's true, there is almost nothing worse on the face of the earth than anyone having to go through a sexual assault like that. That is absolutely horrible. So I want to make that very clear, that's why you got to be really careful with these type of topics, man, because again, let it out and move forward that way. Go ahead, Jake.
No, I'll just say this and then we can move on. 100% back what you just said. I will say, however, that if it comes out, and in all cases where somebody's life can be immediately ruined, the person that makes an accusation, if that is found to be clearly a false accusation, I believe that person should be equally sentenced to the same type of crime that man would have been. You know what I'm saying? If you're willing to drag someone's whole name through the dirt and it's proven to be a lie, you did it to try to make some money or whatever it is, you are an evil person and you deserve to suffer for those as well.
Yeah, and if you're a man who sexually assaults a woman, you should be castrated. I'm sorry.
Wood chipper.
There's nothing. There's. I mean, my hair is standing up right now just thinking about it, man. Like, I don't know. My thought immediately goes to my family and the females in my life, and I'm like, boy, oh boy. Whew.
I like your thought though, Jacob. Like, if you're gonna falsely accuse someone of a felony, then you should be charged with a felony as well and be prosecuted for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. United Bates says it was probably a new charge. He was given the opportunity to turn himself in for something like a sexual assault charge. Police would otherwise execute warrants at your residence. See, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I thought it would be a lot more like.
Yeah. Hey, so then there's no way this was some old thing he wasn't aware of. That's a good point by Bates. Right. Clearly a new charge. I wonder if his legal representation might have been notified before he was and just said, hey, get your client and turn himself in. Otherwise, we're kicking your door in, kind of scenario. You never know.
Which, by the way, props to Bates, because somebody was jabbing a little bit. They said, what Bates? What are you, a lawyer? And he said, no, I was a major crimes detective in SWAT, fella. Like, and then Greg goes back and goes, don't piss off Bates.
Y'all don't know about Bates. Y'all have I know very little about Bates, but what I do know about Bates, it's very rare that you meet someone over the internet that you go, that dude's a real deal. That dude's a real deal. So, all right. So anything else on the Isaiah Bond situation? And again, man, if he's innocent, I hope he's proven innocent. If he's guilty, I hope they put him under the damn jail. Anything else, gents?
Bates said he retired, so we can all have fun now. It's all good.
All right, fair enough. All right, so there you go. There's the Isaiah Bond update. And again, if we were to just talk strictly football in the situation, again, I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little concerned. Like, if Isaiah Bond ends up being the 23rd pick, I don't know how I'm going to defend him.
Oh, bro.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, this was before all the allegations, because he's just so low on our board. And I'm like, I just can't see the 23rd pick. I can't even see the 54th pick. You know what I mean?
If they take him at 54 instead of Jaden Higgins, are you kidding?
Tim's going to be getting served a warrant. That's exactly what's going to happen. So, all right, there you go, Isaiah Bond. Up next, I put an article together earlier. I want to get your all's take on it. I've been trying to, explain what we did last year with the draft board